You are listening to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, where you discover management insights and strategies for your successful dental practice. There are also interviews with key people in the industry who have advice and services to help you and your team achieve great success. Welcome to this week's episode of the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast. And today I'm joined by a buddy of mine who I've known for many, many years. I think we originally met at a networking event. This is before COVID, so it would have been a networking event, a face-to-face one possibly, Phil.
Yes. Definitely a few years ago. But I think it's good now that they're all starting to go back face-to-face.
I think we've all been desperate for it. So Fil Strati is the founder of TechSeek, and TechSeek offer a really fabulous service to dental practices, which we'll talk about. But Phil, tell me about yourself and TechSeek and how you came to be.
So TechSeek, probably we started about 16 years ago. We did, I guess, what every other tech company would do, which is we'd sort of provide a reactive break-fix service, pay as you go. And we grew our client base, and we used to look after a lot of initially residential, and then we started to get into business, and then business started to take over a lot more of our work, and we got to the point where we just primarily focused on business, particularly small business owners of that kind of boutique size of about sort of 3 to 30 staff. But that's obviously grown now, and we kind of, I guess, not restricted to who we look after, but we do have products catered for that market. But what happened was, as we were taking over tech companies, because we were getting new inquiries, we were always asking, what's the reason, or what's the problem with the current tech company? And we'd get sort of answers about, well, you know, Tom or James is really good at supporting us, but he's getting too busy, or he's outgrown us, or, I can't get a hold of him. And so the problem that presented to us is we're going to end up in this same predicament at some point, because no matter how much you kind of raise your rates, you don't know when your next dollar's coming through. So you kind of just you take on as much work as you can, and you kind of then you leave behind the customers that have been loyal to you. So we had to come up with a business model that was still affordable for small business owners, but at the same time allowed us to scale our business as well. And so I guess we're kind of a completely unique business model in the sense that at the moment, the two common business models are you're either a geeks to you type of business, or techs to you, that sort of where it's primarily residential. They do business as well. However, the business model is usually a big company with a call center that's made up of, say, 100 techs, if not more. And so it's all subcontract, and that's all great. But the problem is with us is that if you're a business owner, you don't want to be, or it's not, I guess, a good idea to always rely on a different tech each time. So it's not, I guess, some of the trades where, you come and get a light switch fitted or a tap fixed, right? They come out, everyone kind of knows the same sort of thing. They're all industry qualified. Whereas with us, you're sending out a different person each time. You're having to re-induct them about how things work at your business. You're providing that technician, whoever it is, because it can be multiple subcontracted companies that are helping these bigger companies out. You're providing them your company, access to your company data and your IP. You're providing them with your passwords. And then they go and someone else might come. And then there's the risk of, I've got to provide this information again. Is this person going to do the same job? How long is it going to take me to re-induct them about how things work again here? So it's kind of a mess, and in I guess what we're trying to do is bring up the importance of how, having consistency when it comes to your tech is very important for your business. Like, we should be in the same category as, your bookkeeper or your accountant. We're not, we kind of scoff when someone says, why aren't you changing your bookkeeper every time your BAS is due? It's like, well, no, that's stupid, because she knows my system, or he knows my systems. If there's a problem with the books, they'll know how to fix it. They know my clients. I don't want to give logins to my accounting software to a different person each time. But yet we do this with our IT, and it's because, they can only afford that, pay-as-you-go type of service. Or the other end of the scale is they've got to be much larger to afford a managed service provider. So we've come in the middle and said, let's create a model that benefits both us and the clients. And the way we do that is that we designed our own support membership. And what people can do is small practices or business owners can buy just an hour a month with us. And that varies based on the size of the business. But the idea is that one of the other things we were hearing when we were going to do the audits for the new businesses was that, well, I don't need you all the time, but I kind of want access to you or your team so that, I'm not giving stuff to everyone. I'm not reinducting, wasting all that time. So the way we sorted that out was we allow the hours to roll over. So people kind of use us like an insurance policy where they can, initially set up everything with us and then go, right, I don't need these guys for a while. But then in 2-3 months, you install a printer or you need a new staff member on and you need a new laptop or something's gone down. So you've got those hours banked away that you can use. There's no dent in your cash flow. And coming back to what I said about the business model for us, we're not chasing our tail because we have that reoccurring income from clients that are on membership, which means that two things happen. One is that as we grow the memberships, we don't run out of resources. We can hire another person that's in-house. And I guess that's the other thing as well. Some of these companies offer unlimited remote and unlimited this, or 24-hour support, but the techs are offshore or again, subcontracted in. So we want to make sure that the techs and whoever has access to that IP, passwords and data is fully employed by us. So by having this business model allows us to basically employ full-timers. So we're up to 3 full-timers now, and what will happen is as these memberships increase, we can add another full-timer on to help control that ratio of tech to customers. And the important thing with that is we don't then need to lock people into a contract, and we don't have to hold people accountable, including ourselves, to a service level agreement because we just have to put more techs on.
Fantastic. It is a fantastic model, I have to say, because you're right. There are times where we need this kind of tech support in a very consistent, focused way, but then we go months without needing anybody. And I love your analogy of, do I get a different bookkeeper every time I do a BAS? And you could bring that down even further, which is people who are wildly ignorant. And for somebody who's built their own website and can update it in a flash, and I know a lot of different applications and how they are used because I use them in my business, I'm still wildly, ridiculously ignorant about so many other things. And you and I were online just before because you were helping me out with something. And a simple question such as who's hosting your website, like it took, such a long time, and we still don't know. No, we eventually did find out. Eventually did find out. And so you could whittle that bookkeeper analogy down to, well, would you have various different bookkeepers looking after all the various different aspects of generating your BAS? No, you wouldn't do that either.
No.
And for people like me, I think I'm in a large group of people who don't tremendously understand all different aspects of what's required. And when we do have people coming in and helping us, and we have those same questions, who does your hosting, what's your domain, what's your IP, what's your this, what's your that, all of this other language that everyone tends to speak, we don't know a lot of the information either. So there's a lot of time wasted in just getting the basic amount of information so you can actually even provide the help to start off with.
That's right. And I guess the scary thing is that if your website does go down or you do lose your data and you don't know who to contact or what was being backed up, for example, that's going to put more stress on you because your business continuity goes down the toilet. So one of the things we do, or myself mainly, my role now has kind of become a process of meeting and greeting with new clients and doing audits. And the audits are important because a lot of these tech companies like to almost hold too many of the keys to the castle sort of thing. And that's a problem because I think they do that in the sense that, well, maybe you're just not going to leave from them. You're reliant heavily on them, so you're not going to leave. It's like an employee that kind of knows too much information and then you kind of worry when they leave. you have to refer to them for a lot of stuff, and you suddenly realize I've been working with this person for years and I don't actually know half the stuff they know. It could be an admin, a dental nurse, whoever. That it's always someone in the business that kind of is a bit more tech savvy than you are, and you're kind of like, you know what, I don't care, but she knows or he knows, it's okay. And so part of these audits, when I go out and talk to them, is I'll ask questions like, what do you back up, for example? What are you backing up? So as in, are you backing up the dental software? Are you backing up files on a server? Where are they backing up? So are they backing up onto a hard drive? Are they backing up into the cloud? If they're backing up into the cloud, is it approved or compliant with your industry? So, being a dental practice, you've got patient records. Can that cloud backup does it need to be based in Melbourne or Australia, or can it be in a different country? Because sometimes backup solutions are cheaper, but they're in different countries and they have different compliance laws, and who can have access to those files if needed is different depending on each country. Then you've got a case of how often does it get backed up? So most people can't answer those questions. They go, I don't know who's backing it up. I don't know what's being backed up. I mean, all some of them get told is, here's the 2 hard drives, just swap them over. And so one example of a dental clinic I went to first see, they had backups. They showed me how they switched them over. Now, they didn't know where to access the backup schedule, so we weren't able to see when the last backup was completed. They were never shown. And it turns out that the drives were actually full 6 months ago. The software wasn't removing any of the backups, the previous ones, and they hadn't been backed up for 6 months. So that becomes a problem that you only find out about when the data dies or the drive or becomes corrupt, and then we realise backups haven't been happening. And sometimes it's the hard drives, the external hard drives themselves that are failing because they're faulty. So if the customer doesn't know how to check that the backup was successful and that the backups are happening, and to know what's being backed up, it becomes a problem because we only find out when we actually need the data and then realise we've lost 6 months or 6 years of company data, of intellectual property.
Yeah. And, it's interesting, because you do need to have a lot of background information to understand. It's not good enough just to back up. You have to know then where it's backing up. Are the backups working? Are they full, etc.? And I suppose a way of putting that where dental teams could understand that, you could have a dental patient that says, I don't need to do my 6 months recourse because I brush twice a day, I have a low sugar diet, and I floss once a day.
Yeah.
And they don't have access to all the information. So then they turn up one day, it's been 5 years, I might as well get a checkup done. And all of a sudden they've got bone loss underneath their gums. And the dentist says, that's because I've got access to more information than what you do. And what you think, just because you think you're doing everything right, you need to check in with the experts to make sure on a regular basis, to make sure you actually are continuing to do it right. Or these are some adjustments that we need to have happen.
That's right. And things change all the time, even with dental clients. I mean, they're not... they may have seen that dentist when they were very young. They needed braces at that time. The treatment plan may have been completely different based on the person's needs or circumstances at that time. But things do change. So having reviews are important because sometimes, like you're explaining as well, we do what we were told and that's what we always did. But then we don't realise that, things may have changed. The diet could have changed. They could have osteoporosis, gingivitis, whatever it is, and that's come of age, but they've gone, well, I'm fine, I'm flossing, I'm doing this, I'll be fine. But then you're realising that those other external factors or changes in the person's life are affecting now the way we should treat or what maintenance plan should be put in place. And that can happen with a client, with a dentist, for example, where they have adopted a new dental practice software. And they've actually gone, well, we're still backing up, but they're backing up the old practice software. Or they've decided they've bought a new server or another storage, or they've started putting, someone's created a new way to sort of do inventory control, maybe a spreadsheet on their desktop, but they're not saving it on the server. And then it's like, it's gone, where is it? A lot of people also confuse things like Dropbox, Google Drive, and OneDrive as cloud backup, but they're just cloud storage. So they're not really being backed up. Yes, we're relying on Microsoft to hold on to that data for us, but it's not really, it's easily accessible. So someone can easily delete the data, accidentally rename files or whatnot. So talking to them about that as well, and backup solutions that can grab that data and move it to another offsite location with a different partner is also another form of redundancy. It's not readily available for someone to get to. The other thing I wanted to discuss as well is just that, when we're talking about that circumstances changing, sometimes even we've found where we're going to do an audit that not all the computers have antivirus. And it could be because the dental software has conflicts with particular antivirus packages, and they've just, to Band-Aid fix the problem, they've removed it from there. And then we find there's no security on any of the systems. Someone gets a phishing email, clicks on the link, and again, loss of all the files, running around, don't know where it is. Email gets compromised, but they don't know who the email provider is. So even asking those questions of, like we talked in our previous discussion, who actually owns or is registered as the contact for your domain name? Where is your hosting? Who is your email through? All that stuff we collect because we want to, provide control back to the customer so that they have insight about, okay, I know all this stuff and I have a company that can help me with it, but I know who to call when it goes down. Because if you do have a phishing scam or something like that and you click on an email and your email is compromised and you start emailing all your clients all this rubbish so that they can also get infected, you need to know what service you're hosting with so that you can quickly go and change the password, put a stop to it, send an email out to clients informing them. But again, if you don't have this information, you're kind of in the hands of the tech company, and are they available and do they know how long is it going to take to find this information? How long is it, how quickly is this infection going to spread? It's all about that sort of being proactive or being, that knowledge is power. Do you know what I mean? The more they kind of reinforced with this information, the quicker they'll get themselves out of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I look at my management of this side of the world of my business, and it feels like, as you're talking, it feels like it's more of a patchwork quilt that's, just it's got a couple of stitches keeping each of these patchwork elements together.
Yeah.
Because when you've got a problem, you need a quick fix. Everything's urgent. I just want to get along with the operations of my day. Dental surgeries are exactly the same. I'm sure every industry is the same. And so you end up doing these little quick fixes, but nothing's really by long-term design and to make sure that things aren't going to be a problem later on as well. So just to bring everyone's awareness who are ignorant like me, can you just go through the elements of tech support that you do offer? Because then I'm interested in finding out more about this audit that you're talking about.
So in terms of tech support, we kind of summarize it as desktop support. We do support your servers. However, a lot of companies, especially during COVID, are moving away from that traditional server in the office and are wanting to use things like cloud storage. So your Google Drive, your OneDrive, your SharePoint. So one of the things we do a lot of is helping people move to cloud storage. So and move to cloud-based email. That's, I guess we'll call it premium email. So your things like Google Workspace and Office 365. So that's one thing we specialize in. Desktop support, meaning I can't email, I can't print, my scanner doesn't email to me. My computer doesn't boot up. I can no longer, I've got a virus popping up and there's pop-ups on my screen, all that sort of, basic desktop support. We do some, we're not a web host per se, but we get a lot of clients that come to us, for example, saying, I just signed up with a web developer. I got my website done and apparently they moved my hosting, but now I can't email anymore, or my website's down, or my contact form doesn't work, or things like that. So we'll help with that as well. We're not a phone provider, but again, we liaise with phone systems if there's an issue with that, because everything runs through the internet. We give a lot of, so I guess we also act as, in addition to that phone support, we're also acting as a bit of a conduit in the middle between trying to make basic English of, I've spoken to my internet provider and I don't know what the hell they're talking about and what's going on, but they're saying it's me, I'm saying it's them. So we'll sort of help with that sort of stuff. So there are times where we'll need to call the internet provider. There are times when the practice management software, whether it's Dental for Windows, Oasis, what's the other one, Ultimo, I think is the new one. We want to have a relationship with them because sometimes what's wrong with the computer is deemed as outside of the scope of their work. So they'll say, we think it's hard disk related, we think it's RAM related, we think it's your firewall. So we do a lot of that work where we will talk on behalf of the client with those third-party software or the practice management software to make sure that we can come up to a resolution, rather than, because there's a lot of handballing going on in every industry in regards to this stuff. So we find that we kind of try to patch or make sense of what's happening. But they're the basic things that we look after. So I always sort of explain it as the main things we hear, I can't email, I can't print, I can't scan, I can't, I'm syncing my files, but I can't see them on my other laptop, all that sort of stuff. And I guess, so that's pretty much in a nutshell.
That's good. That's excellent. And so when you move through, and I'll be putting your website in the show notes, techseek.com.au.
Yep.
On that site, you've got an audit that you offer.
Yep.
And so when you first start working with a client, you go through various elements that are very important from a tech perspective that they've got right. Tell me a bit more about that. And what you see as common issues.
So the main one we spoke about was the backup. So the questions are, what are you backing up? But the important thing is yes, like we spoke about the backup, we really need to get down to sort of a granular level of, do you know what you're backing up, and is it actually important for the business? Because there's a lot of stuff that people just back up because the backup software comes on the computer and just grabs everything. But I sort of asked the question of, if you came into the office today and you couldn't get access to this computer, what have you lost? And not so importantly, what have you lost? What are you going to die without? Because it's going to be, I don't care about anything else. Everything's on my practice management software. As in, I create documents and I create referral letters and I do this and I do that, but I upload them all to my practice management software. So I just need that folder. And so one of the things as well is we will speak to the practice management company or so the dental software company and actually ask their support, which way do we need to do this backup? Because one of the things as well is they get told, just grab the folder and chuck it on an external hard drive. But some of this software needs to actually have the database stopped before you back it up, otherwise it can corrupt the file. Or some of this software actually creates its own internal backups, so that all we need to do is actually grab the backup file so that it doesn't disrupt the database. So again, we've had issues in the past where you speak to one person over the phone and they say one thing and another person. So we usually get the client to have to write an email with us asking, I want the full procedure. I want to know how to check whether it's actually been done properly. What is the process? Are there any other folders? So sometimes this dental software has a database, which is great, but then there are folders when you guys upload, say, a Word document, a referral or whatever, a picture or an X-ray, they get stored in a different folder and we need to make sure we grab them as well. Sometimes they even have their own database. So it's making sure we're clear about what needs to be done so that we can avoid any negligence on our part.
Yeah. It's so complex. It's so complex, isn't it? Why would we bother trying to figure it all out ourselves? It's too much to know.
So that's the part about that. That's the part about that. But also, so what are you backing up, and do you actually need it as well? Is it in the cloud, and can it be stored off-site in a different country, or does it need to be here? That's that part. Then it's the case of, yes, do you have antivirus? What type of antivirus? Is it just something free? Is there a firewall on it? Is there things like, can I easily uninstall it? Is there a password to stop me from uninstalling it? Is there any reporting that goes back to the tech company? Can you get reports? Do you know how many computers are getting affected or receiving infections? Is it via email? So one example would be is if there's a lot of viruses coming through emails, should we switch over to a premium email program like Office 365 because maybe it reduces the spam a little bit? Is the password complexity on the emails any good? Are they getting easily hacked? All that sort of stuff. The other one is in regards to if they are using something like Dropbox or Google Drive or SharePoint OneDrive, do they know who has access to what? When's the last time they reviewed it? So sometimes they're sharing X-ray files with an external provider that reviews them, for example. And that external provider's moved on or they've changed staff members or whatever, and they're still sharing that company data or personal, private, confidential information from a patient, and they're actually aware that they should be severing that connection.
And I think sometimes with the privacy of patient files, now that so many things are kind of leaving the practice walls because of technology over the last number of years, that we think, it's just a dental X-ray, it's just a this or that, and we think we can sometimes be forgiven for minimizing the impact if that information was to be spread out.
Yeah.
However, privacy is one of those things like freedom, like respect. When you want it, when you deserve it, when we are saying this is what we do offer privacy.
Yeah.
You've either got privacy or you don't. You either have freedom or you don't. You either have respect or you don't. It's very black and white. And so we have to hold dear to us that privacy is an extraordinarily important thing to honour when we're dealing with patient files. And it doesn't matter if it's an OPG or someone's, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what I was trying to say was we can all be hacked, okay? But the important thing is, have I done enough to basically ensure it? Like for us, we're carrying every client's password on our computer. Now, if we just go and save it on a notepad file in Dropbox with a shitty password, that's negligence on our part. It may not look that way because, people can say, well, I'm an IT company, these things can happen. But I'm always asking myself the question, where can I put this data? So again, we'll implement something like LastPass, which we've got to talk about as well, about putting those passwords in LastPass. So, and the techs that work with us have access to LastPass, but they're shared via a user profile. So if a tech leaves, I can easily cut them off to that stuff. Can they take the passwords and just download them and use them themselves? Possibly. Can they break in and remove my computer and leave? Possibly. But then you go look at things like, okay, well, if I have removable devices here that can be stolen, maybe we could install a BitLocker, which is like with Windows 10 Pro, it can encrypt the drive so that even if you pull the hard drive out and try to read the data, it's not accessible without a log key. That's another. Again, it's how many locks do you put on your door? But you've got to have some locks. Otherwise, you can't just turn around and say, well, they just broke in, but I didn't, it was it was a revolving door sort of thing. So, where is the antivirus adequate? Like this free crap doesn't cut it. And also the new software that we've started implementing now allows us to see how many people have it installed. So if you buy 12 licenses for your practice and there's only 10 in use, this triggers the text to say, well, where's the other 2? Why haven't they been installed? Because it only takes that one laptop or PC to be compromised to just start stuffing up the rest of them. So, that's all those PCs have access to the same database, so they can all corrupt the database. So so the antivirus, the backup, asking questions about where are your hosts, who's hosting your website? Are they backing up your website? Who's hosting your domain name? Do you have access or do they have access? And the other thing as well is if you've registered a domain name or a tech or a web developer has registered it on your behalf, are you the registrant contact email? Because if you need access, they're going to send that information to whoever's the registrant contact. So is it your tech company? Is it you? The hosting, who's paying this sort of stuff? If you've got Office 365 licensing, who's paying it? Do you have Office 365 Global Admin or Google Workspace as Super Admin, meaning that can you add a new user if you need to? Can we delete a user? Can we suspend a user? And the important thing for that is, again, if someone from your business leaves, can I quickly shut them down? Can I cut off email access so they may have it on their phone? Because if they're using cloud storage, like say OneDrive or SharePoint, they also have access to those, let's say those patient files. They're going to walk out the door and still be able to access that private information. So we want to be able to sign them out of their devices and cut them off as quickly as possible. So you having that access is not going to delay that process as well. So you've got your antivirus, your backup, you've got, like we were talking before in terms of the cloud storage, do you know who has access to these files? Is it previous staff? Is it previous, who is it? It could be like, a VA from overseas that's helped you work on some stuff.
And that's happening more and more now too, especially with specialists. They've got external VAs from other countries. Yes, and you mentioned this the other day when we were speaking, that there could be some privacy rules that prevent you from being able to legally store patient data overseas. It might need to be onshore.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, is in terms of saying, well, one of the I guess the Band-Aid fixes people do is they'll say, oh yeah, I just gave her access to the whole folder. It's like, but what does he or she really need access to? Make a new folder in SharePoint and define it so that when you're dragging and dropping. So a lot of the things I do to once we onboard the client is I'll say, let's make some 4 or 5 primary folders and let's define who has access to those umbrella folders. That way, when you drag and drop stuff in there, that person's going to have access or that team is going to have access. Because what people do is, instead of doing that, they set up their OneDrive and they share this folder to that person, that folder to that person, and it's painful trying to go through, and that's why people don't bother checking it. The other thing that's been happening as well during COVID is a lot of dentists are saying, I want to work from home, I want to access the appointment schedule from home. And a lot of these dental software practices don't have cloud versions yet. So they have to remote into their PC or their server, and they're using remote desktop because it's free. Now, we can help them implement that. We can put a strong... Okay, so firstly, they have a shitty password. It's password 1 or whatever. So that's a problem because people are going to try and brute force attack. Now, the way that works is you've got to think of remote desktop like opening up a small window in your house. Okay, you're saying, I just want to be able to get in when I want to. So you open up your little small window. Now, everyone's going to keep trying to squeeze into that window because they can see it's open. So that works. So with remote desktop, you open up a port. So the default port's 3389, let's say. So these people scan the internet to find out which IP address has this window open. And then they go, right, this one's open. Let's start using a password tool that just generates password after password after passwords hundreds of thousands of times until we can get in. And then they'll either try and get in or they'll sell those details on the dark web to someone that wants to buy them to have access to your server or your PC. All right? So number one is, okay, it's great. It's a great service. It's available for you, but you're potentially giving customers your patient data out to these hackers. Let's change the port that people connect to. We can do that through the registry in Windows. Let's put a much, much more complex password instead of just your dog's name or your child's name or, something very generic, or password 01, which does my head in. And then there's another program called Duo Security, which we implemented. I guess we almost forced it on our clients. We're like, it's free, you need to have it, sort of thing. And Duo Security is you install it on the PC that you're going to remote into, and you install an app on your phone. And essentially, when you remote into this PC, Duo comes up and says, I need you to verify the connection, and you need to approve it on your phone. So we did this for a dental clinic and a law firm because, again, they were still relying on accessing their files from their server. And 20, 30 staff all went home, and they're all trying to access stuff. And it's like, no, you're going to get hacked. And we were even seeing things like, coming back to that antivirus software, people were actually getting into the computer and uninstalling the antivirus software so that they could deploy ransomware infection.
Wow.
So for people that don't know what a ransomware infection is essentially you encrypt all the files on the computer and then you ask for a ransom in the form of maybe Bitcoin to decrypt those files. Now, in order to do that, you need to have the antivirus not on guard. So you're kind of getting rid of the security guard so that you can go in and make a mess. And so with this particular client, I said to them, I just noticed your antivirus is uninstalled. So I'm going to install it again and put a password on it. And then 2 days later, he said, I still can't get in remotely. I got in because I had a TeamViewer connection in there. So another way of getting in that was more secure. And because I was trying to find out why the remote desktop connection keeps failing. And I've noticed that the antivirus is gone again, even though I've password protected it. And then I've seen a software in there that's like pro-uninstaller.ru. So it's a Russian type, installer that obviously aids in uninstalling programs that are password protected. So I said, right, I've told you need to change all your passwords to something more complex. You need to put Duo on all the computers. And it's been okay after that, but it's very easy. I mean, everyone's a target.
Yeah. And what's that Duo, did you say?
Duo Security. So DUO.
DUO Security.
Yeah. A lot of people will confuse it on the App Store with Duo from Google, which is like a video app. It's like Zoom. But you'll see Duo Security. It's a little green icon. And the idea is that you can set up an account and it gives us an integration key, a password key, and another key. And essentially, you add them all to the computer where you install it on. And then you add your phone in there and it sends you an SMS to your phone to activate it on your phone. So it's like having two-factor. It's pretty much two-factor. But instead of you having to punch in a number, like a 6-digit number, it just makes a sound on your phone and says approval deny. And so I've had clients saying, I keep getting a request to approve at 11 o'clock at night. And I said, well, was that you going in or not? Because if it's not, you don't touch it. But that goes to show that people are trying to get in.
It does go to show. And I was going to ask you, but I think you've already answered the question. I was going to ask you, all of these hackers and things, what's the agenda behind the hacker? But if they can hold your information at ransom, then that's one of the main motivators. Do they just go in there to cause trouble because they
I think people, I guess hackers used to wipe your PC, but what's the good of that when you can actually get money out of it? So they've monetized the process. So either they steal your credentials, or they steal your credentials and then try and get into basically run this ransomware and try and obtain and big companies have still been ransomware. You're not 100% proof, but again, it comes back to that, have I done enough? So there's that. And the other option is to sell your stuff online so that someone else can have access to that stuff for whatever reason. So the other thing that I've noticed, which is and I actually got shown this website, which was interesting. It's called Have I Been Pawned? So they pawn off your information. I think it's PWND, and I'll quickly look it up for you. And there's lots of sites that do this, right? So it's Have I Been, so spelled properly has Have I Been, and then PWNED. And you can actually enter in your email address and it will do a search on their database to see whether your email address and password are available for access. Now, it's not just to scare you a bit. So it's not that your actual email and password are available, but when you sign up for, say, Canva or Dropbox or one of these sites, right, Spotify, whatever, in the past, they may have been compromised. So someone has downloaded those details, right? Now, if you're like everyone else and you like to use the same password for everything else, these people are going to buy these details and try them on different sites to get in. And this is when you find you get hacked. So having password complexity, but having uniqueness about this password is important as well. This is kind of veering off into more cybersecurity, but this is what we're copying as well, given the current climate. Now, the most common thing I have is a customer will get an email and it'll say, "Oh, I've been watching you and you're looking at a lot of dirty porn and, you should be ashamed of yourself." It's always the same, this big spiel, or, "Oh, you're in trouble for this," or whatever. And it says, "Here's your password," right? So customers freak out and go, "Shit, like, how did they know that's my password?" And I say to customers, "Is it your password now or is it similar to your password?" And they said, "Yeah, it's similar, or I use that on some sites." And what we find is it's quite similar, and it's because people use the same password but maybe add a 22 or a 23 or an exclamation mark. They modify it slightly, right? But these people, and again, that's another way they extort money. So what they'll do is they'll say, "I know this, and I've been watching you. I've hacked your phone or whatever. I'm watching you." It's usually porn related or something like that. It's always a theme that they use, and people just go, "Maybe I don't know." So they freak out, and or they tell me all these stories about how they never do these things. And I just look, I don't care. It's actually designed to take money from you. So they'll give you a time limit and say you've got 7 days or you've got 3 days to send me this money. Otherwise, we're going to reveal your secrets to everyone, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And people are completely innocent, but they just, at that point, it's enough to create anxiety, and they just go, "You need to check everything now." And we say, "You need to create a list of all the logins that you have, and you need to go and update them." But that's how they're tricking you into, I guess, getting more money from you as well.
Yeah. It's just always intrigued me if it's just troublemakers out there, but certainly, I mean, there's money in everything, isn't there? And that's what crime is all about.
Yes.
It's a combination of everything, and money usually is at the basis of it as well. I really love your analogy of, how many locks you have on your door and letting, just having a small window open. And that is a very good way of considering it, because we can go over the top with things, I can imagine, as well. But most of us, has it been your experience that most of us don't have enough?
Yes. And I do say to people, if you have enough locks on your door, you're protected, but you can't get out. So it's safety versus convenience, or security versus convenience. And one important thing is, a lot of people get told, "I need to put two-factor authentication on my Office 365 to access my email." Now, we don't have it personally. People can have it on there. But what I do, for example, is the global admin account, which has the most amount of access. We never sign into our products using that. But some people make themselves the global admin and then they sign into everything. So we kind of keep it separate in that sense. But with two-factor authentication, this is the scenario I can give you. Person working at your clinic gets an email and says, "Hey, I've sent you an attachment. You need to sign into OneDrive to get this file." They don't check the domain name. They don't check who it's come from. They're just so busy with their job, they just do it, okay? Now it says, you need to sign in to open this file. So they sign in with their credentials, and then it says, oh, I need your two-factor code. Okay, I'll pick up my phone and I'll put my code in. What's the point of having the two-factor?
Yeah.
Because you're not sort of training about the vigilance. So one of the things we do every few months, and customers hate me for it, is I send out a text message saying, hey, check out our new office. Here's the link. And the link basically points to a LinkedIn post that I have saying, you should have known better. These are the common ways you get hacked, blah, 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 blah. So, and I get these, you bastard, I trusted you, that sort of stuff. And I say to them, recreate the email, use my link, my little bit.ly link that I've created, and say something else like, look what we just bought or whatever, and send it to your staff, because it's a fun way to say, I just busted you. You weren't listening on the last meeting about cybersecurity. And so we text it to everybody, or you do it randomly or however you want, and it goes back to me saying you should have known better. Now, the other thing as well I've noticed is that iPhones tend to show a little preview of the LinkedIn post. So I used to have like a kind of looks like a virus sort of thing. So now what I've done is I've changed the LinkedIn post to a picture of someone's office. So they go, oh, cool, Phil's office, click on it, bang, and then it's like, you should have known better sort of thing. So these things can help educate your staff going, mate, don't trust anything I send you, always question. And it's, always question. So we talk about some of that stuff as well. But it's about making sure during these audits, does the customer, yes, we want to find out that information because we want to make sure that we're a right fit for the customer, but even if we walk away with not pursuing a relationship in terms of from a working relationship on membership, the customer walks, we get to walk away knowing that the customer's gone, I don't know any of this information, I need to go and find it now. And in some cases, we've asked them these are the questions I want to know from your tech company, and I want you to write this email on your behalf, so to not create any tension if they want to keep their current company. And sometimes they don't like the answers that come back from them. They'll go, oh, we've actually got to have a chat, because they've not maintained that relationship long enough that they've got no idea what's antivirus, what's this, and they're a managed service provider, but they're not reporting. The job's not being done. And they'll sometimes go, you know what, these guys don't know anything, and I've been with them for 14 years. I want to come to you guys and start the ball rolling again and regain control over my business. It's that sort of stuff. And even like the hours, like we say to people, yeah, you've got an hour a month, or you've got 5 hours a month, or 20 hours. Can you use one of those hours to do my backups? Because I'm just paranoid. I want someone to do them for me. Or can you, it'd be like, for example, one that was saying, I'm constantly adding staff on, I'm constantly changing passwords. I said, well, don't pay us to do that. Let us train you. Let us give you enough user access so you can do it. And let us use that hour to provide you training so that you can do it yourself. Yeah. So it's about empowering the customer going, well, but if you go, I don't have time to do this. Yes, we charge in 15-minute blocks, we can do it. But if we're finding these little tiny things that we know you can do, I'd rather give you the instructions and show you how to do it.
And that's part of us just increasing our skills and knowledge to a degree that we can expect to be able to learn that stuff. To be able to learn all the stuff, it's too much. No. To expect dental patients to learn all the things about dentistry, it's too much. But you can learn how to properly brush your teeth. You can learn how to floss effectively.
Yeah.
And you can learn, the intricacies around diet and how to really impact diet.
But you're not going to go, I've broken my tooth. Can you tell me where I need to buy something to sort of, some binding agent?
Where do I get the composite?
Can I borrow a tool?
Yeah. And I think it does come back to people who are unaware like me. We find it is like speaking another language. It's like, I don't know how to play an instrument, for example. So for me to read a sheet of music is complete gobbledygook for me. For you understand all of it. And so we put a lot of our faith and trust into external parties.
Yes.
And as you and I, found out with me in my tech issues at the moment that I've got at the moment, I forgot that I had the involvement of some other random person completely as well, and I completely forgot about it because none of it makes sense to me, so it doesn't stick in my brain.
You put it in the too hard basket.
Yeah, and you think I'll just get back into that too hard basket only if I am absolutely forced to because I've got an interruption to my daily operations.
Yeah.
And so I think my advice to dental people out there that are listening to this that think, oh gosh, we've got 3 different people that do help us out with various things, and I'm not quite sure how to manage it all properly, because all of their advice seems to differ ever so slightly. It's the same thing that patients face. Patients will go to 5 different dentists and they will possibly get 5 different opinions around how that person should look after or get done to their mouth long term for long-term success. So what you end up doing as a patient is finding a trusted expert, a trusted dentist, and dental teams can find the trusted tech person that they can say, now I've chosen you, you're going to be my trusted expert now. So you help guide me on how to manage all of these very important areas. And when you were talking about security, gosh, you think about some of the mean-spirited parting of ways between employer and employee.
Definitely.
The last thing you want is for a previous ally to become an enemy, and they've got access codes into all of your information and can really damage you. And so there are so many important elements to get right for a dental practice, and quite often the case is that it's a knowledge gap that stops us from getting there. And so get your trusted resource. I love your membership program because you can roll over your hours. You've got a monthly amount that you pay.
Yep, that's right.
And you're there on site or online whenever it's needed, and whatever you don't need gets rolled over. It's just a beautiful benefit, win-win situation for everyone.
It's interesting you say that, you need someone to guide them. And this is the thing, right? It's your business. So we want to give you enough understanding so that you can make informed decisions for your business. It's not about us telling you what you need. And again, with the locks, I can say these are the locks available and you can choose which ones suit your business, but I'm not going to shove it down your throat and say you need this and you need that, because I guess for some people it's more of an upsell exercise. And we see this during the audits where customers will show us the itemized bill from the tech company or the telco or whoever and go, I don't know what half this shit is for. And we'll say, like, one big example I found with one client, which we recently went to see, I think we saved them about $2,000 a month just from our audit. And that was because we found a cloud server, which the current tech company didn't know what it was for. And we called the hosting provider and said, what's this service for? They did some investigations, and it was for something some sales manager tried to set up initially that never took off, but they had been paying $600 a month for the last 4 years for it. So no one checked that. The other thing is that they're paying about $350 a month for Dropbox licenses, even though they have a terabyte of storage with OneDrive and they're on Office 365. So there's another $350. The internet connection was available. Probably NBN wasn't available back in the day. They signed up to a $600 a month NBN or internet type connection. No one ever changed that. So it just went on. And then the Office 365 licensing, they're supposed to, so these were a franchise owner, they're supposed to give just an email to each staff, each of those franchise owners, but they were giving them a standard license, which includes the Office apps. So it's costing them extra $10 by another 60 franchises. So, you can imagine I was like, cull this. But doing the background work once they've signed up to go, are we really sure we need it or not? And allowing the customer to make the decision. Because I don't know at the end of the day whether they need it or not, or they've had some agreement with a specific franchise owner or, whatever, that, they can use it at home for their laptop because they're accessing the dental software or they're working from home, whatever it is, right? So it's about asking those questions and guiding, like you said, not telling what I think they should do. So it's all that stuff. But the amount of money people just blow on this sort of stuff, like someone was paying $600 a month for backup, and I said, well, where is this backup? Why is it so special? What are you doing? And then it's kind of like, it's just our working jobs. It was a graphic design company. It's like, no, we don't need to do that. There's no restriction on where you can store the data.
Wasted dollars are coming out every single month for years. We
had a dental clinic that was paying, I think, $350. No, they said to us initially they weren't paying for ongoing support. And I said, okay, well, this is how our model works. But when they started looking at the bills, because we were starting to roll everything away, there was a bill for $350 for antivirus and something else a month. And I said, I don't know what's that for. And they didn't know either. They just said, well, don't you charge us monthly for antivirus? And I said, yeah, we do, but the licensing costs us like $3.75 a device, not $375. But I don't know. And again, it's that, ambiguity. Like it's like, you look at the invoice and you go, I don't understand this. I don't care. Or I've tried to ask the tech company and it just all sounds too confusing. Let's just pay it because if we pay the money, we're going to be protected. So a lot of my audit is asking the questions that, are probably too hard to ask, or they know they're going to get a stupid answer back, or it's something too convoluted. So that at least I walk away having a better idea, and they have more confidence over, okay, I'm paying this, I'm with this company, but I understand why I'm paying for these services. Not, let's just keep paying it because I don't want to have a bad day.
Yeah, that's right. What if I stop paying it and something bad happens?
Exactly.
And that's how I figure out what it's all about. And you mentioned LastPass. What was LastPass?
So LastPass, there's a few of them out there, but essentially they are like an online password vault. So you can access it from your phone as well. But even if you have again, don't use your same password for LastPass. Let's just make that one clear. But you have a master password. And in regards to that, even if you log in with those credentials on another computer somewhere else, or on your phone or on a new device, it sends you an email to confirm whether it was actually you trying to log into that location. And then we put notes for every single customer. So we even use it to pretty much put notes on, let's say it's a dental practice and they need, when you set up a new computer, they need, let's say, dental for Windows, and then they need the X-ray software, and then they need access to the Z drive, and they need access to this printer. We write all those details down in LastPass as well, so that when a new computer needs to be set up, we kind of have an idea of all the settings we need without going back to the practice manager going, oh, what do you want on here? So it gives us, but all the passwords are there as well. And, it's because people jot stuff down on paper and everywhere and they can't find it. And again, that's more of their hours they're using up with us when they shouldn't be. If we're efficient, then they're going to chew up less of their hours, have more rolled over, have more banked up, have better security, have better hours available to them, or more hours available to them when they need them.
Yeah. So with TechSeek and where your client base is, you are personally based in North Essendon, which is a northwestern suburb here in Melbourne, Victoria. Yes. We've got listeners around Australia. Do you like to keep your client base to a point where you can go out on site and visit them if needs be, or can a lot of your work be done online?
We find a lot of it's done online now, especially during COVID. People have become more comfortable with the idea of signing us up just as an online or a remote-only company. The reason we usually advertise to the inner northern and western suburbs, however, we do have dental clinics or any other industry, to be honest, outside of that, is that I like to be able to, if there's a big problem, I like to be able to just fly out there with my car and, in 15, 20 minutes and just sort the issue out. But there's, given COVID, there's been companies saying, look, we've got a guy here that's on site, but it takes 3 days to get out here, and I know that you're going to probably fix 90% of my issues remotely, so what's the point? So as long as they're aware of that, and that we can maybe call someone local if we need hands-on sort of support, maybe that's an option. So some of the ones in Queensland and Sydney that we support, they kind of go, look, our dental software has remote support only. It's very rare, and look, I mean, there are arrangements we can make to get someone out there, but they've been comfortable with it. The other reason being, like, say, for example, if someone's in, say, Pakenham, for example, we have a client that's in Pakenham. They rarely call us, but when you do need an on-site visit, it's a half-day trip just to go up and come back. So that impacts our other clients because our service level's dropping, because we can't get to as many tickets because our tech's are out and about. Obviously, with more techs, it's becoming less of a problem now anyway, but it's still a resource issue for us because they're going all the way out there. So in that sense, in that particular sense, it's great now because we have a tech that actually lives up in that area and he just goes there on the way to work, sort them out and whatever. But ideally in these areas, and people like to work with local businesses. But it's been funny. We've been getting a lot of interstate clients calling, just saying, look, I like your business model. I like your reviews. Can you just support us remotely? We're happy to do that. And we're not going to say no. We'll do the audit over Zoom or over the phone. And then we'll get one of our techs to do an onboarding exercise where they remote into each of the computers and, have a look at antivirus and this and that via TeamViewer, and then get back to them and say, look, these are all covered, but we're concerned about this one. Can we, put something on there?
Beautiful, beautiful. So if there are people out there that are interested in what TechSeek can offer, and to speak further about the membership, especially if they're in the northwestern suburbs of Melbourne, absolutely, because then you've got on-site and online service. But the rest of Australia, if you are very happy and comfortable with remote only, then also contact TechSeek. So it's TechSeek, TechSeek.com.au.
That's right. Yep.
And we've got all your contact details, information around the audit, etc., on that site. Is that the best place to try to access you personally?
Yep. You can fill out our contact form and just let us know you're wanting to go for an audit. And myself or one of the guys will get in touch with you. But usually, I like to go out and do the initial audits. That's look forward to sort of speaking to a few new clients.
Beautiful. And hopefully we'll be able to get you back on with more tech speak from TechSeek. There you go. Well, thank you, Phil. You have been a source of incredible information. I understood half the words that you were saying, given my ignorance in the space, but there'll be people out there that are more wise than I am that would have understood more. But it certainly does highlight the enormous benefits to getting an expert in that area and having that trusted advisor come on board as part of your team, one of your stakeholders, to help you as a dental practice have daily operations that are less likely to be interrupted by tech issues, and to make sure that you really are compliant and on board with important things such as cloud storage, password protection, virus protection, etc. So I appreciate your advice to us and coming on to the show. Thank you so much, Phil.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, you should join the club. The club members receive an online lunch and learn twice a month where I share insights, systems and strategies to improve the success of your practice. These lunch and learns could not be easier to train your dental team. They are recordings, so you can watch them at a time that suits you. For example, during team lunchtimes, pay your team members for their lunch hour. The first half hour, they're eating and watching the presentation. The second half hour, they're discussing how to implement this particular insight into your dental practice operations. And remember my favourite quote, it's by Archilochus, and he states, "We do not rise to the level of our expectations, but fall to the level of our training." So join the club now and start upskilling your team members and improving the operations of your dental practice. I hope to see you there.